In this lesson, Shrisha and Lamchan are going to help me explore why we would move laterally on a piece. Now, lateral refers to moving from one side to the other. And we would question, why would we ever want to do that? It's a very long piece. Our coaches have all told us we're a linear sport. We move forward, we move backward. So what is the point of moving side to side? Well, we are afforded about 1.5 meters distance to travel from one side to the other. So let's explore why we would want to do that in the first place. We are going to look at 3 fundamental reasons as to why we would do this. We're going to look at denying a target area. We're going to look at displacing to make sure that we can't be hit as easily. And then third, we're going to be looking at setting traps. And all this really is used on the piece. So we're going to look at how we can apply these actions, their function, and any kind of issues that we might encounter doing it. Shrisha is going to help me explore the first part of why we would want to move from side to side, and that's going to be denying a target area. So generally speaking, when we're on the piece, we do have a little bit of movement that we can afford. So we were always planning on starting in the center. So if Shrisha stands in her avant-garde position, she's in the center of the piece. I'm also in the center of the piece. This means that neither one of us has much of an advantage. So if we're standing here, we start fencing, so she's moving forward, I'm moving forward, we're advancing. We both have the same kind of space. No advantage one way or another. So if I decide, okay, I want to hit her on the back, I'm going to get over here, I'm going to deny my inside line, so there's nothing for her to really hit except for my back, and that's not going to be helpful. So what she's going to do is she's going to step to the side of the piece as well to deny me that advantage. Now we're back to where we started again. So we're both completely equal. Neither one of us is afforded an advantage. So if I attack, it's going to be direct, she can parry and she can repose, just like that. But if we start again back in the center, and I'm going to start advancing, she starts advancing, we're moving around a little bit, and I step over here. Now she attacks me, I can parry, and I can hit her on the back. Why? Because I put myself in a position that opens that target. So it's a lot easier for me. Again, if we're on this side, and I decide to step more to my right, I'm going to displace to the right side of the piece. So we're moving around and I step over here and Shrisha stays on that side. Well, we both have a disadvantage. Our entire target facing forward is quite valid, but the taller fencer is going to have a greater advantage because they can reach further. So if Shrisha lunges, she can't hit me, and if she recovers back, I lunge, I can definitely reach her. So it's not necessarily an advantage for her to stay over there. She's going to want to step again in front of me, so she's going to move over to her left, so she's directly across from me, and now we're denied those advantages. And we can kind of just stay here as long as we want. Second part of moving laterally is the displacement. Lamchan's going to help me with that. Displacement is what we generally do when we're counterattacking. Now, as a beginner or a novice fencer, we generally stick to a very conventional counterattack, that is stepping back and sticking out the arm, or ducking. Very simple. But as we get more advanced, a little bit more competent in our timing, we'll start to displace to the side. So counterattacking, displacing, hitting, and stepping out. Now, this is very valuable, especially if you can read your opponent to get the timing right. So if Lamchan puts his mask on, we're going to stand on guard, and we're going to have a look at how displacing as a counterattack moving to the side is advantageous to your fencing. So if we start in the center here, Lamchan's on guard, and he's going to do a lunge at me. So he lunges, I do a counterattack, I hit, and I displace, I step off to the side. This means my target is no longer inhabiting the same space. He does a direct lunge, I step out, and there's nothing for him to hit. Now, if he wants to disallow, prevent me from doing this, he's going to move to the side of the piece, and I'm going to go, okay, I'm going to go over here too because I don't want to prevent that target. So if he lunges, and I step off, it's going to be hit. There's no advantage for me to step off. If I'm stepping off the piece to avoid being hit, I will get carded because I'm leaving the piece to annul his touch, which you cannot do. If I leave the piece after the halt, that part's fine. But moving to the side, He's prevented me from counterattacking in that direction. It's not going to work. But if I was left-handed, we'll look at this in the third section of the video, you'll see how that can be disallowed. So again, displacement, moving from side to side, is very helpful. But it has to be well-timed, and you have to give yourself the space. So if you're sitting in the center of the piece, it does give you that ability. But if your opponent catches onto it and they step over, you're going to have to follow them. You don't want to stay there because you're exposing your back, and that's a very tricky target to defend, especially if you're not very experienced. Now the third reason for moving side to side laterally on a piece is setting traps. And again, Lang Chen's going to help me with this one. When you are moving from side to side, this is based off of a plan that you're going to acquire. We've looked at disallowing a target area by closing it. We've looked at displacement as a counterattack. And now we're going to look at traps. And this is where we're going to expose a very specific target intentionally so that we can set a trap and stop our opponent. Now, we've already looked at this in cases where we've looked at feints and invitations, but this is less to do with your blade positioning and more about just where you're physically standing in the on-guard position on the piece. So we're going to stand on guard here, and we're going to have a look at that invitation. So, if Lang Chen's on guard, he's going to start in the center, and I'm off to the center as well. We're both on guard. Right now we're both equal, except I'm left-handed, so he's a lot closer to me. So Lang Chen's going to decide, fine, I'm going to set this off just a little bit more. I'm going to give him a target to attack. So he's going to move to his left. Now to me, this is going to be a huge advantage because he's going to still have to attack me on my inside line, which is really far away. He's not going to hit it from there. And for me, I can hit him on the back. So for me, this is like an awesome opportunity. I'm going to be like, great, I'm going to stay here. But he's put himself there deliberately. So when I attack, he knows he has to parry in 6. He has to close that line. So when I lunge, he parries, and now he makes his riposte direct so he can hit me. And this is only possible because he's setting that up. He has to really sell it. So if he's back into the center, and we're both on guard, take 2 steps back, and we start, and we're moving, and Lang Chen wants to disallow that line. He's coming forward as well, and he's like, okay, I need him to hit me, so he steps over to the side, he sells it, and then fine, I'm going to hit him. And there's my attack, and there's his riposte. It is something that he builds up towards. He can do that by moving to the side. Now, again, as a left-handed fencer, if we start that scenario again, and he steps to the side, I'm going to go over there as well. Like, no, I'm going to live over here as well. I'm going to close that. So now there's no real advantage. So if I attack, he doesn't know where I'm going to attack him. So that means he's going to have to set another trap. And this is possible by just moving along the side of the piece. So when you are fencing, or just watching fencing for that matter, and you see fencers starting in the center of their piece and then quickly move over to one side or the other, they're not doing this just because they feel more comfortable there. They're doing it for one of these 3 reasons. They're going to disallow a line, so you can't attack them there. They're going to displace, so they need more space to counterattack, or they're setting a trap. They want their opponent to attack them specifically in one area that they're ready for. So when you're moving on the piece, make sure there's a reason for it. If your opponent's moving from side to side, don't just be static with them and move with them blindly. Have a purpose behind it. Very simple.